My name is Paul. I'm 42 years old, originally from just outside Detroit, Michigan, born and raised
Nice.
in Macomb Township. So big Detroit sports fan. I used to have my Lions, didn't
Yeah, I was
make
gonna
it,
say
but
unfortunate.
yeah, but amazing season nonetheless. Lived there till I was about 29 years old. Then I moved
Mhm.
out of state with a company. I was working for a medical supply company west of Reno. I had a cousin that started a business in Frisco, Texas, north of Dallas, DFW area. He opened up a pizzeria franchise. So that I ended up in the DFW area, did the pizza thing for about 8 years. It was a grind. We did great business, but it just became a situation where like it wasn't fulfilling. So
Mhm.
my wife was like, "You need to do something you love." She knew I love video games, and fortunately for me, I never knew I could make video games.
Yeah.
But in Dallas, there's a lot of programs for it with id Software there, a bunch of companies. Gearboxes and Dallas Community College had a program. SMU has a program, the Guildhall. I went to Richland, now Dallas College. They've come under one umbrella, the Cole Community College program. Very
Okay.
good program, a lot of good people. That was my start in 2019. I switched from, running a business as a manager and went into gaming. I knew nothing about gaming as far as how to make a game. I played games my whole life, been playing
Mhm.
since I was 4 on Atari, then Nintendo, Genesis, PlayStation. Went to school from 2019 to 2020, just 2 years straight, learning. Unreal Engine is what they teach over there.
Mhm.
Had some experience with a little bit of Unity, a little bit of like, GZ Doom Builder and stuff like that, but mostly focusing on Unreal Engine. And
Mhm.
then I was working full time, other jobs, and then going to school full time. And then eventually I was fortunate enough to get a job with SypherPK's company, big Fortnite Twitch streamer, YouTube
Mhm.
streamer. And so he works in the Fortnite space. So I was working for his company, Oni Studios, and they had their game division called Super Joy Studios, rebranded under SypherPK. I worked from April 2023 to November 2024. Epic Games made some changes to their payout structure, budgets
Mhm.
changed, so that I'm a level designer, environment designer. So they they released me from that. They kind of went more with programmers, I think. They have a small group there. Really good people
Mhm.
over there, though. They're very supportive, super nice. I got
Mhm.
nothing but good things to say about those people over there, for real. And so now I've been working freelance, been putting out my own maps on Fortnite. We had success right when the first person shooter map device went out.
Mhm.
I just happen to have been making a copy of the Rust map from the original Call of Duty, and I had
Yeah.
no intention of releasing it. It was just for practice, something to put on portfolio, something to look cool. And then I noticed there's a bunch of Call of Duty maps on Fortnite, so I was like,
Yeah.
precedent for me to release it, copyright infringement. Luckily, I had some success, especially when that came up, and it's since died down. But working on some other original ideas with a partner, and then getting together with some other people, and now I'm just trying to spin this thing out to either getting another role with a big company, or I'm just going to do it on my own and create my own studio and games.
How would you say your journey into the gaming industry, would you say it's been, since you started, a little more difficult, a little easier since you sort of I guess some consider you a newbie, 6 years. Some people I've talked to, they got 20, 30 years. How would you see yourself? The gaming industry is in transition. Where do you see that this time, what you occupy now?
Well, like I knew it was going to be difficult, like coming out of school, but then I felt very fortunate to have gotten a job, and I kept seeing
Hmm.
all these other people getting laid off, and all the reports, LinkedIn, and what's happening. You feel fortunate you have a job. It happened to me as well. But it was par for the course. It seems to happen to everybody at some point, which is not the way you want any industry to run. It's just the way it's been. You just kind of have to accept it and try to figure out the way you can navigate it. So I felt very fortunate that I went to school for 2 years, and it took me 2.5 years to land a gig. I've heard it's harder to get a job in gaming than to get no Juilliard. I
Believe
mean,
that.
yeah. So I'm finding it very difficult because you don't know who's actually hiring or who's just
Right.
putting up ghost
Hmm.
postings. Every week I'm searching for new jobs. A lot of times you don't even get
Call
an
back.
email back or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate, at least when a company's like, we've considered you and we've moved on. Like that's actually like a
Yeah.
courtesy at this point because a lot of
Yeah.
times you don't hear anything back. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think eventually the ship will get righted. A lot of large companies that built up big teams and then just released them are going to realize that that's not the way the industry can move forward and work well. I definitely think a lot of it's seems to be pushing towards the idea that like this is similar to film and television. I've never
Mm.
worked in film and television, but we know you're on a project, you have 3-4 months to get everybody on set, work together, get it done. That's not how gaming works. You run into so many things that don't work the way you intended, or you have great ideas, but that doesn't mean they translate to play. So you just got to keep pushing through, keep educating yourself, get your skills better, and keep proving that you can do it. And you know, any art is tough, you know, and then trying to do anything at a high level is tough. That goes for any industry, you know, it doesn't matter if it's music, if it's film, if it's games, or even being a plumber or an engineer. If you want to do it at a high level, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of time and consideration, and you're going to have to deal with, you know, things that you don't want to deal with, politics or budgets. That's just the way of this world. So navigate it, push through, and find opportunities where you can.
Yeah. And that's interesting because you're in a hub like Dallas. Even you finding it difficult to find a job in a hub like that is interesting. I'm in Tennessee, and while there are gaming things, it's not as widespread as somewhere like Dallas. I can only imagine someone trying to find a job here.
You have to either relocate or the company has to allow you to work remotely. Fortunately, my previous company allowed me to work remotely, and that was amazing. My wife has a good job in Dallas, so this is where we are. I need to either work here or remotely. I think a lot of people are, you know, you want to be anchored down to your community, and you know, you have family and, you know, people that you want to, you know, spend time with outside of what you're doing. It's always going to be a struggle to figure out what's best for you and what you're willing to do, you know. So I would encourage, if anybody's, you know, single, doesn't have a lot of things holding them back, and especially if you've only spent your life in one town, maybe think about moving, or especially if you have the opportunity, if you can get hired in and be relocated, that would obviously be the best way to do it. I was very fortunate to land in an area where, you know, Austin's a huge hub for it. Austin, Texas. There's a lot of game companies I see down there, and then Dallas as well. So
let's talk about the work you did with SypherPK. He's a huge streamer. I recognize that name. How is it navigating that? You know, I'm imagining a big streamer like that, they have a lot of things going on, doing this, doing that, setting this up. How do you navigate that, dealing with all that, but also being efficient and quality in your work and making sure you're doing the things you want to do and enjoying the things you want to do, while also understanding that this thing is a machine that is just going.
I was on the game side, so we would mostly get like, you know, this is the game that they want built. Sometimes we had internal projects, and we also had some external like branding projects that we did with like Dunkin' Donuts and Buxom and stuff. So they usually have a clear outline of what they want to do, especially Cypher. He's impressive. You see him working and talking. He's dominating you in the video game while telling you ideas that he wants and carrying a conversation like he's drinking coffee. It's impressive to see somebody work on that level, to do that kind of stuff, because I'm focused on one thing and I'm doing something. So, you know, I think the hard part is trying to come up with an idea that, you know, of course, is conducive to what they're looking for, and making sure it all works together. There's a lot of back and forth, drawing it on a paper, putting it, you know, rapid prototyping it really quick because he wants to get in there and play it. The hard part is making sure that you have it all set to go for when he's ready, because he's pulled in so many different directions, doing streams, coming up with ideas, talking to brands. It's really about like making sure you focus on what you have to get done so it's ready for when they need to review it. For me, once I started video game development, my focus became like, I loved video games to now I love thinking about how to develop the video game. And now your mind totally shifts once you start getting that dev process. So it became kind of easy for me to be like, okay, this is what we're working on, this is what we're focused on. The hard part is when you know you want to do something and then the software doesn't allow you to do it in the way you're normally used to doing it, because we worked within Fortnite. So we worked within UEFN, which is Unreal Engine for Fortnite. And that's like a more like boxed in, contained version of Unreal Engine. You don't have all the capabilities. So coming from Unreal Engine 5, that's where Unreal Engine 4 and then 5 is mostly what I worked in. And then once I started with them, that was my first introduction to UEFN. So there were certain things where I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So now I have to figure out how to do that. And so there's very simple things like blueprint scripting where you can code visually with nodes. You can't do that in UEFN. It doesn't exist. So there were certain things where it's like, okay, now I can't do that. So they need a coder to do it because they have a different type of code. That was probably the toughest part, like being like, okay, what are the restrictions of this software program? Because you're pushing it up to their cloud server. Now you can't make a game that is 50 gigs. You can't make a game that's
Hmm.
2 gigs. You can only upload, I think it was like, I might be forgetting right now, but like there's like a upload and a download of like, 1,800 or 1,200 megabytes and then 400
Hmm.
megabytes. But it's a very small number. That was the tough part, like building things that were big and cool, and then they don't work because it's like we've already used up all this space
Yeah.
and we haven't even gotten into the programming of it yet. That was a lot we learned quickly and pivot fast. In that issue, you have to, especially with what they're doing in Fortnite, you're trying to hit key things at key moments. You're trying to get on the cutting edge of what's going to pop off. You don't
Hmm.
know. You're kind of back and forth, chasing what's working, but also trying to create something different.
Right.
And you can run into a lot of issues there where players are wanting to play the same thing over and over again, and you're trying to introduce a new way, but they don't gravitate towards it. You don't know who your player base is. They could be 4 or 5 year
Right.
olds. They could
Yeah.
be 30-year-olds.
Right.
So that's tough too. You're trying to make a game for everyone, and that's usually a recipe for failure. You need to find out who you're creating it for, and then
No,
make sure you
that's
focus
really
on those
interesting. Yeah.
points. Yeah.
What is it like working on a game like Fortnite? Obviously, it's a monstrosity at this point. To be fair, I've never actually played Fortnite. I've watched a lot of Fortnite. My nephews play
Yeah,
Fortnite.
everybody's
but
seen footage of Fortnite at
yeah,
some point.
exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm more of a Call of Duty shooter type of guy. If I'm gonna play a shooter, I'm probably playing something like that. But like, what is it like playing on a game or working on a game where it's like you said, you don't necessarily know your fan base because you got little kids, you got grown ass dudes, you got this person, that person, you got, I mean, just an unfathomable amount of stuff that goes into this game as far as branding and just random stuff that just I've
Yeah,
seen.
you never know what kind of experience you're going to get when you click on that
Like
tile.
what is it like working on a game like that with as big of a fan base and just sort of, I'm sure the expectation of that game is sky high. What is it
Yeah.
like working on a project like that?
It can be intimidating. Are people going to play it? If they play it, are they going to like it? Because those are two different things. Like
Mm-hmm.
of course, you're always intending to build the most fun and game you can, and you want to make it engaging. But you also have to think about how am I going to get on the best of you Unreal of creative Fortnite creatively, and because you need to get on their algorithm and the tile system like Netflix. So you might have 10,000 movies, but only 50 that are getting shown,
Right.
like on the regular. So how do you get people to dive in deeper? Luckily, when you have somebody like SypherPK, he can go on his Twitch stream and he can promote it or make a video. You're going to get a lot of people viewing it. Then they're going to hop in. Now, being a freelancer, I got fortunate. I made the Rust map, and the YouTube creator included us to like check out these first person shooter maps. We were the first clip on that video. I'm pretty sure that drove a lot of people. The hardest part is I think this is a really good idea. We make it and I really like this idea. It's a fun game. Then you're like, is anybody going to see it? So, that's just the thing where it can be luck at the whim of these algorithms, which are not necessarily fair.
Right.
And I've also seen in the last few weeks, especially on some Fortnite creative stuff, where everything's a carbon copy. They have the same tiles. Sometimes I don't think the algorithm's necessarily working the way it was intended. So that can be frustrating. Anytime you make anything, you put it out there, and then it doesn't get any, views, or if you're a
man, it's depressing. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. You put out a record, and you're like, no, this is really good. I got some really good, and your friends could be like, dude, this is really good. I really like this, but it doesn't get exposure for whatever reason. You're not. And the other thing is you're trying to crack, whether it's movie, film, music or games, you're trying to crack into that top like 1% or maybe even top 0.5%, because that's, YouTube creators, Twitch creators, it's that very minuscule, portion that actually makes the huge gains. Everybody else is trying to fight their way up. And that's one of the most frustrating parts. That's the way it always has been. You want exposure, you want to get seen, you just got to keep fighting your way in. Hopefully somebody sees what you're doing and likes it, and they're willing to push it out for you.
Doing freelance work now, what is your plan, or what is it that you sort of want to do like moving forward as far as like within the gaming industry? Do you want to continue to design and do things like that, or do you want to expand? Like, what is sort of your feeling as far as moving forward in the gaming industry as you get more experience and spend more time with this stuff?
I appreciate the question. I'd like to eventually build a studio, or at least the studio of people. So like working in the Fortnite, I've seen how like you can make really good stuff, you can make it quickly, and you can make some good money off of it. And I know
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple other things coming down the road with at least another company that's going to be doing something similar. So looking to get into those types of spaces. If anybody is working where we can create stuff and make money by creating other platforms, what I'm looking to do is there's all these developers out there that are losing their jobs. Like I
Yeah.
want to try to bring as many as I can in and be partners with them. I don't want to be their boss. I don't want to be like, you're making this, you're making that. I want, like, hey, let's create something together. If it's me and you, we'll split it 50-50. If it's a collective of 10, everybody gets 10%. We can all make something great and put it out there. My hope is I can keep making these maps in different UGC spaces unless something, big comes along. I mean, if I can work on a huge title AAA company, that'd be amazing. If I could work on an amazing indie title, all we want to do really, most creators, is just work. You just want
Mm-hmm.
to you want to do what you do and make a living off of it. So what I would very much like to do is bring in a group of people that are really dedicated to it and want to do it, and then see if we can just build something together and share the revenue, which sounds like a basic studio, but not a lot of studios that work like that. It's pretty much we're going to pay you and push all the money to the top, no matter what. That is a good way to work too, because you got bills to pay, especially if you're a studio
Yeah.
that's providing insurance and all that. Right now, there's so much talent. I'm just looking at like maybe we can all build something some way and then do
Yeah.
it in a way that is, makes it flexible for their lives. Not everybody can just move and have kids, families, elderly parents to take care of. I'm like starting a sole proprietorship and have a couple partners where it's like, let's just try to build something and see if we can just get some momentum and bring in some money that allows us to make a bigger project or just
Mm-hmm.
more projects, just gives us that flexibility. So
Yeah.
I know it might be an open-ended answer, but
Yeah.
everybody would love it to run their own studio. We all have our own ideas. I definitely have lots of ideas that I would like to see made into a game. Got to start small. I'm not trying to build the next MMORPG, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to do the 7-year, 8-year
Yeah.
development process. My goal is to create as many small projects as I can that are fun, engaging, people want to play. The main thing, what you're doing, fun. Bring as many people as I can into that fold. Hopefully we can all make a living doing it.
Since you've worked on Fortnite, what sort of games would you like to work on outside of Fortnite? Obviously, like, do you have any sort of ideas that are not necessarily what people would think of front of mind when they think of?
Yeah, Fortnite's not a game I really played. Like I played it when it
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
released,
Yeah.
and I knew about it, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's a good game, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for me because I'm not into competitive games like I used to be. I was into the first person shooters, Call of Duty. It was a big thing, but then I found myself gravitating more towards single player games. I love single player action adventure games like the Uncharted series, the Tomb Raider
Mm-hmm.
series, I like the God of War series. Played Horizon Zero Dawn recently and really enjoyed that. I love Doom games. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal
Yeah.
were awesome. I love platformers, so I really loved Cuphead. I thought that was a great one. Love the Souls series, so like
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls and Born's my favorite out of all those, but
Mm-hmm.
love Sekiro and Elden Ring's amazing. So there's a lot racing games. Like I don't play a ton of racing games, but I definitely like playing. Like there was a time where I loved playing Rocket League.
Yeah.
I like
Mm-hmm.
the rocket racing on Fortnite. That's fun just to hop in.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like Mario Kart. Where you have like different goofy mechanics as well.
Yeah.
The game I'm trying to make right now is a solo project, is a stealth game. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. I want to be able to release something. I want to work, and I want it to be engaging but nothing too long. I'm not trying to build a 20-hour game right now because it's just
Mm-hmm.
me. So right now I'm focused on making like a single player stealth game, similar without any action necessarily for the player, like no weapons or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
environment level designer mostly. So once I start trying to get into develop AI and stuff, I want to keep it as simple, similar to Alien Isolation, where you pick up stuff and navigate without getting caught, type of thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm looking at to build now. But I love first person shooter maps. Like I love building first person shooter maps. The idea of drawing the top down and then like trying to figure out exactly like what's a good starting spot for each team sides, making it symmetrical, but also making it somewhat asymmetrical, but balancing it. That's a tough, like, thing to work on. It's a lot of play testing, of course, too. Try to get those figured out. But I love all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to bring that into Fortnite too. Like I was really happy they brought in the first person shooter device. The problem is, of course, is players spend so much time and money getting their skins. But they don't want to play first
Mhm.
person because they want to look at
Right.
their skins, which totally makes sense to me.
That's with Call of Duty. Everybody's spending all this money on skins and stuff. You can't even see them.
Only the person you're killing can see
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Like, yeah. So you can only see them when you're on kill cam. I mean,
And that was one of the reasons I was always like, I don't care about that. The skins in
Yeah.
those games, yeah, because you're like, I don't get to see it. I 100% agree. So right now, like me and my partner, we're building like more of it's a battle royale shooter, kind of a flip flop. We're just trying to tweak
Mhm.
it just a little bit, you know.
Mhm.
It'll have guns, of course, and it'll have 32 players. We want 32 players in the battle royale, and you'll be
Cool.
building. Other than that, it's a little different from what I've seen. So we
Mhm.
hope that works out well. I just started working on another map, doing the top down and the puzzle for it, but we're going to do more of an action adventure where hopefully it's less competitive and more like you can mine some stuff and then go look for some treasures and go look for some obstacle courses that you have to play
Mhm.
through. And like, okay, you get through one obstacle course using this certain mechanic. Now you have to go earn enough to go get this other mechanic that'll have you get
Mhm.
to the next stage, and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
Let's try to change it up as much as we can, do things a little different, because I've seen a lot of box fights. Those have all been done to great length. So we're
Mhm.
trying to find out, okay, what are the underserved areas and what kind of games would people like to play. And I think I'd like to see more promotion personally from Epic
Mhm.
Games. Certain things, everything shifts a certain way, and you're like, well, that's what Epic Games did with Fortnite. They made Fortnite, and it was just to be like, hey, this is what you can make with Unreal Engine, and then they're like, this is $1 billion maker
Yeah.
now, so we kind of
Mhm.
have to shift our resources, and that's business.
Right.
To get back to the point, I'm hoping what we build will intrigue players, even though it's in the same vein as what
Mhm.
has been done. So
Awesome. Give people a rundown of how they can find you, sort of find the work that you're working on.
nice.
Just give us a rundown of all of that good stuff you want to put out there in the atmosphere.
I appreciate it. So if you want to find me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, just Paul Lachowicz, like you can see on my name. Just make sure you get that spelling right.
Yeah.
WICZ at the end. But yeah, I've got my resume up there, portfolio up there. You can go, there should be a link on there too to go to my Carbon Made page, and that'll have all of the map codes, the Fortnite island codes I've done, plus a couple of things I did when I was in school or an unreleased project that I had worked on. So we have some of that stuff up there. If you're on Fortnite, search for AP Studios. I've got a couple maps there. One is called Rust 24/7. The other one is Gunfight 2v2. So for Gunfight 2v2, we took about 6 of the most popular maps from Modern Warfare, made a quick gunfight game out of that. So you can have 1 to 2 players per team, quick rounds, 40 seconds to shoot each other. If they don't take each other out, then they have to capture the flag. If they don't capture the flag, whoever has the most damage, whoever has the most health left, they're the winner, and then just kicks on to the next round. The one caveat is matchmaking has been an issue. I've tried with my own alt account, and we're the only 2 players in the map. They don't get connected, which is unfortunate. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. If you want to check out the Gunfight 2v2 map, have 2 people in a party play together. It's very fast. We have gulags in there. There's a bunch of them in there, but some of the best ones. So you can go to AP Studios, check that out. Hopefully I'll have another map coming out. For my personal project, I don't have a date for that yet. I've been using that to get reacquainted with Unreal Engine Blueprint. I've been working in the UFN space, focused on textures and materials, making sure that it's optimized, because if you want to put out anything big, you have to really optimize it in UEFN. Building out the first couple levels of that map. I don't have a date. I'd love to give you a date. Nothing yet. You'll know.
Cool.